In today's episode of my podcast story, we have Dominique Dom BrightMon, the positive thought catalyst and host of the acclaimed Going North podcast. Dom is dedicated to inspiring others to advance in life and create their own piece of immortality through content creation. With a background as a certified trainer with the Maxwell Leadership Team and a best-selling author, he has a unique ability to blend humor with leadership insights, making his podcast a beacon for inspiring authors and leaders alike. Having interviewed over 850 published authors, Dom's passion for storytelling and personal growth shines through in every episode. He's here to share his inspiring journey on how he built his show from the ground up, on how he continues to empower others to share their stories. Tell me, what's your name, the name of your podcast, and what your podcast is about?
Sure thing. Name's Dominique Dom Brightmon, and I'm the host of the Going North podcast, tips and techniques to advance yourself. And the show is where I interview authors to inspire listeners to become authors.
Wow. Okay, the show is the show where you interview authors to inspire listeners to become authors.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I like that. You have this thing pretty worked out already. Your elevator came flying out. Wow. Okay. Why did you start the podcast?
Yeah, I started my podcast originally as a way to promote my first ever book, Going North, Tips and Techniques to Advance Yourself. That's why the show is called Going North. And I read a wonderful book by Derek Sivers, who was the founder of cdbaby.com, that wonderful site where, especially in the early 2000s, late 90s, where independent musicians can basically sell their music as opposed to having to fight with record companies back then before iPods became a thing for real. And that short book inspired me to make my show about interviewing other authors, especially first-time authors, because even before the pandemic, thousands of books would be published every day, and authors need every outlet they can get to basically promote themselves and their work, especially me, myself. I needed it too, so I basically decided to make it about other people and serve other folks as opposed to just me rambling in a microphone every week, and lo and behold, promised to upload at least one episode a week, and 6 months later got really well known across the globe, surprisingly. So consistency pays off.
How old is the podcast?
How is podcasting?
How old is the podcast?
Oh, how old is the podcast? It's 7, about to be 8 years old this coming September, funny enough. Started back in 2017.
Brilliant. Wow, that's nice. Wow, that's how time flies when you're working on something. It will fly anyway. You didn't start a podcast.
Oh yeah, time flies whether you want it to or not. Except if you're working a 9 to 5 and it's like the last few minutes of your closing shift. It's like, except for that, time flies all the other times you don't want it to fly.
Yeah. Wow. When you started the podcast, it was more like after you wrote the book Going North, and you wanted a medium to kind of promote the book.
Right.
And then later on, the podcast metamorphosed from just something to promote the book to something now that gets to inspire other authors to.
Yes, sir, indeed.
It's been 8 years now. I'm curious how, considering the purpose you started the podcast, how well is the podcast doing? Is it doing well concerning the pop?
I think it's doing pretty well, in terms of guest list, ever since especially joining Podmatch on top of the regular pitches I get, I'm on average, I'm probably doing 4 interviews a week as a host. And my max was probably 8, but on average, maybe 1 or 2 people occasionally reschedule, and I'm usually booked out a good 2 to 3 months in advance for the guest side of the game, and book sales have increased because it's another way to market the books. I always put an ad at the start of the podcast, so that way folks can, hey, check out the book, buy a copy, support the show. I got to pay some bills here, metaphorically, not really metaphorically. So it's been doing pretty well. It's grown in ways I've never imagined. I'm probably about a good 48 episodes shy of the official 1000th episode, so it's been going pretty good.
Wow. You're climbing to 1,000 to become a millennial podcaster. Wow. That calls for a celebration. When are we celebrating that?
Man, I don't know, like 48 episodes, 3 episodes go per week, so it should be around late summer, early fall. We should be around that time. So, yeah, just in time for the 8th anniversary of the show, no less, too. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's really, really nice. Does your podcast, is it just audio only, or do you do audio and video?
Definitely audio, 99% audio. On occasion, if the Zoom video was A-OK, and it was one of those moments where, like, myself or the guest didn't have a crazy background going on or too much background noise, then I'll probably outsource the video footage, like, to someone to polish it up and all that good stuff, but definitely mostly audio because it's a lot easier to edit audio versus video. Because I forgot the statistic a couple years ago. I heard it was like every 1 minute of video editing is like 3 to 10 minutes. So it's like on average, an episode goes 41 minutes per episode. So I'm looking at 163 minutes per week per episode times 3. And it's like, if I don't outsource that and try to do it on my own, that's just asking for it. So like video editing, if there's any video, it's going to be outsourced. I'm not going to dedicate time to that.
Yeah. Another way of asking the question is your podcast active on YouTube?
It is. Definitely it is. Because the thing is, the way it's set up now is that since I switched podcast hosting platforms, because with those who may be starting out with podcasts, you have to have a place to centralize it, something like a Libsyn or a Buzzsprout. I personally use Monetize, and that's basically where you put all your audio files and then it distributes all over the place. Almost like a carpet bomb, if you will, because my podcast goes to like 25 separate places outside of the regular Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and things like that. And the thing is, like, there's no way to like do the audio like when I switched over, because in Libsyn, when I used to have my Libsyn, basically when I uploaded the episode, it would automatically upload it to YouTube. Monetize doesn't do that, so basically, like, some episodes do get uploaded later, and some mysteriously do get plays. And the good thing is like sometimes the backlog, they actually get uploaded to Facebook as well, because it's still set up that way a few years ago when you could actually upload videos to Facebook directly through your podcast hosting platform. So I have a YouTube page. Occasionally videos go up on there, but it's like mostly just still images of the show logo with the content still, because YouTube is still probably in the top 3 listening platforms for podcasts. Like, I personally use it for content listening myself. Like, I don't even watch the video all the time. Sometimes doing background work, like stuff around the house, maybe occasionally taking a break for a video game, like heck, maybe even like taking notes for a future interview for a guest for my show. So yeah, it's on YouTube too. It's not the main place, but it does go there.
Yeah. Quickly before we start asking you other questions regarding podcasting and your story, can you quickly walk us through what your workflow looks like and some of the tools you use?
Sure thing. Workflow, I have to say it's in 3 phases. It's record, revise, release. The record phase is basically where I get a pitch from a guest and I'll give them a once over of their profile and I see if they have any audio content out there already. Because the thing is, it's like, I still do most of my editing myself, the audio editing, and it's like, if I don't like hearing you speak, then I don't really want to have you on the show, to be honest. Like, I need a sound test here, because if someone has a bad mic and it just derails from the content, it's like it's not going to be good for either party. So definitely doing the whole checking of the background, like making sure they've done at least one podcast before, they at least have a mic, and making sure that they have at least a book to promote and sell, because I'm all about promoting fellow writers. And then do my researching like that. My research process is where basically, if they're a prolific guest, I usually try to look for 2 recorded interviews from them, where I listen to their most recent one and probably the oldest one I can find from them, so that way I can get a good feel of what they intend to share and where they're coming from and get a feel for them. And that way I can find some interesting factoids that they may have even forgot about, especially if they do a lot of guesting. And then they just schedule through a recording link after they pick a time and everything like that. They come on, they record via Zoom. After we're done recording, then we go into post-production. I usually have a calendar schedule that goes out a good 3 months in advance. Right now, I'm booking into middle of July. Right now, at the time of this recording, when episodes release. And then on the day of, when they are fully edited, usually make a Canva image to where it's just me and the guest. So that way it's like, hey, I promote myself as the host, but also showing the guest as well. So it's mutual promotion and all that good stuff. And then just goes out to 20 plus places. And the good news is that I have a website for my podcast as well, which is great for backlogging, because the thing is, once it gets uploaded and the site catches it, then it can repost and reshare it to Twitter, to LinkedIn, to Facebook, and things like that. So my 3 phases, my workflows: record, revise, release. So basically, having the guest, if I like what they're doing, then they get on the show when they pick a date. Once they show up for that date, after I do my preparation, we have a great fun conversation. Then it gets edited, then it gets uploaded later, and then just reshare it out, and then email the guest usually when it goes live and ask them to share it. And if for some reason they don't feel like sharing it, then it's okay. I'm still going to repost it to the moon anyway.
Yeah. Thanks for walking us through your podcast workflow. So far you've been podcasting. Have you ever had any technical fails? Yeah, you forgot to record, you lost the file.
Oh yeah. I've had a few of those moments. My first couple episodes of recording were rough. I did an interview via Skype back when Skype was still active as an actual software. It's probably going to be obsolete maybe by the time this comes out. I'm not sure when, but recorded via Skype, where I didn't know what the heck to do when it comes to recording separate tracks. So my part sounded like trash. The guest's audio, it was still make-outable, if that's even a word. And I had to outsource that audio footage. Then there was another time where basically my mic died on me because when I was switching locations and doing some moving, I misplaced my USB cable for my original microphone. So when I got a backup USB cable, it just died halfway through the interview, and I had to basically scream it to my computer so the guests can hear me via Zoom. So I've had a couple errors, and I've just had to ask guests like, hey, the audio's trash. Here's like a clipping of it as proof, so it's not me just lied to you. And then we ended up rescheduling and redoing the interview. And most folks usually cool about that. Like, I can't really think of a time where a person's actually said no to that, especially when I send them proof so they know it's like, hey, this actually happened. And I'm not saying that's going to happen all the time where, let's say, you forget to hit record or if you hit record and it sounds like trash and they ask for the audio clip. I'm not saying they will. I just do it just as extra proof, because usually I like to try to over-deliver, usually when it comes to things like that. So that way, like, hey, I'm just being authentic here. This ain't me trying to scam you or something out of your time or whatever. Like, this legit happened.
Yeah. Well, I think it's one of those things that happens to almost all the podcasts. I said probably you have a team that's doing everything and making sure everything works well. Then you don't have to worry about that. But usually it happens. Sometimes you even pour out your heart and your thought, and then you realize the stuff wasn't even recording, or maybe the mic was not even connected on, and then you just have to like look and look at the star and the sky and question your choices.
Then howl at the moon afterwards.
And sometimes it depends on how, so that all episodes are not the same. There are some episodes where you poured your heart, soul, and spirit into it. And this is not a matter of, oh, it's going to get views. You don't really care about the downloads or the views. It's more like you made this episode and you put all you had into the episode. And after, when such a thing like that happens, you just look at the time. Usually if it's maybe in the evening, you just ask and look at yourself. So I think we'll just go again tomorrow. I don't have that energy. For now, let me just...
Yep.
For podcasting, how has for the past 8 years now that you've been podcasting, how has podcasting changed your life?
Yeah, it's changed my life in ways I wouldn't have imagined. Like, the thing about podcasting is it's kind of like the new coffee meetings with entrepreneurs and folks you want to have a conversation with, because years ago, if you would read in blogs or certain books, like, hey, if you want to meet and talk with a mentor and want to learn from them, just buy them a coffee. And some folks will get mad at that because it's like, dude, my time costs more than a cup of coffee, bro. But if you invite them to be on the podcast, it's totally different. It's like, oh, hey, all right, yeah, sign me up, man. Like, yeah, I love to guest on the show because the podcast, that's forever and a wide audience gets to hear it. Now, granted, if you're starting out, it may not be a big audience, but at the end of the day, like, especially early episodes where you may have those folks like to go back in your catalog and go back in time, especially if you don't have a massive one yet. They're going to find that conversation. They're going to want to hear it. And plus, folks love to talk about themselves in podcasts. Podcasts have been great for me. Heck, even shouting out Podmatch again, like that website, like I scored a dream guest and an unexpected dream guest through Podmatch, in addition to probably about 300 other people, like Simon T. Bailey. Like he has written quite a few inspirational books. One of them, if I'm not mistaken, called "Shift Your Brilliance," which was probably my favorite book from him. And then he wrote a customer service book and a couple others. And another guest that I had on my show a few months ago in 2025, former WWE diva Joy Giovanni. Like, I didn't even know she actually contributed a chapter to a book. And the fact that she actually said yes and actually picked a date on the calendar that I shared with her, I'm like, dude, this is freaking awesome. Because usually sometimes with names like that, it's like they like you have to get on their calendar. And it's like she was one of the like them two were the rare folks I actually pitched to be on the show, and they actually said yes. So like yeah, podcasting's changed my life. I've had conversations with people that I never thought I would have from the beginning, and being able to connect with people, especially someone you've seen on TV as a teenager, you go forward in the future 15 years later, it's like, oh, you're sharing the same screen with them. It's like, it's a surreal feeling.
Having a conversation with the lady.
Yeah.
Yeah. So far, I don't, 8 years ago, I don't know how you were in terms of, speaking, listening, what your skills were, but I'm guessing that podcasting might have left a footprint on that aspect of your life. So can you tell me how it is, why it was and how it is?
So let's see. 8 years ago, I already had the public speaking experience back growing up in church in my teenage years when the voice dropped, along with some other things. Puberty, discovered the voice. I did Toastmasters, got a couple awards in grade school for public speaking, and gave quite a few inspirational speeches. And that probably prepared me to be a pretty darn good podcast host, if I do say so myself, and from some past guests who've enjoyed their time chatting with me. Like that came from basically having the mindset of, hey, being a great communicator, public speaker, but also having the sense of radical hospitality of like where basically when you have someone, it's like having someone in your home. You basically want them to feel right at home with you, make them feel comfortable and things like that. Just having that mindset and just basically sharpening and polishing that up over the years. Cause like if I was to listen to, like, funny enough, like when I was basically putting older episodes in the show notes, as you may also like episodes, recommended episodes that may have been referenced to in the current episode, I would hear my intro back and I'd be like, oh God, that sucked. That just sucked badly compared to now where it's like, all right, I actually have a real microphone for now. That one wasn't recorded with like over the head headphones attached to a phone. Like it's actual quality now compared to back then. So I like intro wise, I cringe, but like listening to the actual content, like once the guest starts talking and asking questions, I can see the growth in the way that I've basically grown over the years because I found my flow now. That's the other thing too. Like the more reps and sets you get in, the better you'll become. So like if you want to find your flow, your peak performance state, like keep getting those reps and sets in as a podcast host.
Yeah, yeah. I like the way you talked about how podcasting has connected you with some of the persons you admire in your industry, and you've had the privilege of having a conversation with them. And then I love for us to let's talk about the money. uh, do you make money from your podcast directly, or
Oh, I make money from the show, but it ain't enough to retire or supplement my whole life. Like I ain't paying rent with the podcast. I'll say that much. Like I'm making some coin, but I ain't making Fort Knox money. That's the eventual goal.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, wow. So, just to like go a little bit into details, which of the monetization parts have you taken for your podcast? Is it ads, sponsorship, your own products? I'd love to like.
Definitely my own products, my books themselves. That's what got me started doing a podcast anyway. Like the books themselves, I got ebooks of every book I got out, audiobooks if they're my own books that are start to finish, my own solo projects like Going North and Stay the Course, and my advancement journal compass, like book sales, audiobook sales, ebook sales, occasionally guest speaking opportunities to get some change there. Also having an email list where I remind folks if, hey, this episode came out, here's some future episodes that are coming out down the road, and like even guesting on other shows to where it's like, oh, I heard you on this podcast. I need like 50 books for my teachers. Like, can you send 50? It's like, oh, I'll be happy to. Shoot, thank you. Like, yeah. So mainly product sales is the main thing. Like ads, that's just pointing back to my own products and services. Like ad revenue is great and all, but you have to have like a real massive buying audience. Like maybe, I'm not sure what the proper numbers are today in April 2025, but maybe it's probably 5 to 10%, maybe even below 5% podcasters that are actually making real money from actually podcasting and having the ecosystem around it. Like there's very few podcasts out there that actually make money. Like not everybody's signing a Joe Rogan contract.
Yeah. That's at the end of the day, what matters is that it depends on the product you have, the type of podcast you have, and a whole lot of other factors that come into choosing the monetization part you want to take for your podcast.
Yep, that's true. That's true because it varies.
I'm just going to ask this question. Has podcast never gotten you into?
I'm gonna knock on wood on my wooden desk. Nope, it hasn't gotten me into trouble because I focus on the author and their book and their content. Like, no trouble for me, thank God.
Hey, just a quick break. If you enjoying the insights so far and want even more behind the scenes ideas, inspiration, and tools for growing your own podcast, join my email list at mypodcaststory.com/join. That is mypodcaststory.com/join. You get access to helpful resources, exclusive updates, and the kind of stuff I only share with my email subscribers. Whether you're starting out or already podcasting, there's something valuable waiting for you. Head over to mypodcaststory.com/join and subscribe. Now, back to the episode. Yeah. I mean, it's one of the luxury you get to enjoy if you're not in the politics and those fields: politics, gossip, entertainment, and
yeah, exactly. Besides, I'm here based on servant leadership. Like I'm here to serve other folks and grow my own business in life. Like I'm not here to shoot mud at people. That's the other thing too. You got to have the right mindset going in. So that's the other thing too. Like I'm coming from a place of helping other people, my fellow human being, as opposed to trying to sling mud to make a buck.
Yeah. So far now that you've been showing up consistently for 8, what would you say is like the major contributor to your consistency now, not growth? Because later on I'll ask you about growth, monetization, and other aspects, but like the consistency of showing up. Like what you do have a job, you have other things you're doing too. The podcasting is not like what you do day night, and how have you been consistent for 8?
Yeah, you have to basically, if you want to succeed in podcasting, you have to have a foundation for success. A lot of books who are authors who have podcasts, they mention, hey, have at least 5 to 6 episodes at launch. So that way you'll have a cushion and then have about 4 or 5 episodes ready in the can. I basically had that at the start of the podcast. Like the launch day, funny enough, I had this marketing campaign called 50 Days of Inspiration, where a different quote would be shared, inspirational quote, and then on day 50, the podcast is going to launch. Well, come day 50, there was no podcast launch. because I didn't settle down on which podcasting host I was going to settle on. And two, all the episodes that I wanted to have ready at launch date, they weren't even done yet. Like that first episode with the bad audio that I mentioned before, like that was still being worked on. And this was even before I even realized how good show notes are for your podcast. So after that little delay, about, let's say 2 weeks later, it was supposed to launch at the end of August 2017. Come September 14th, it was able to launch with 6 episodes on SoundCloud. And then a couple weeks later, I settled on Libsyn as my podcast hosting site. And by the time it was the end of September, I basically was good with 3 episodes out that came out every Thursday after that. And the good news with that launch, even though it wasn't perfect and it was delayed, is the fact that even though I launched on SoundCloud and there's probably no other way to find it, once it got on the hosting site and got on the Apple Podcast, I basically had 10 episodes out of the gate because it pulled them all at once on that one day when I had those 10 episodes ready. So basically, you pre-record your stuff in advance, like have your artwork done in advance, have the show's mission in advance, and be okay to change it as you go along. Like the show descriptions changed over the years, the guest selection has changed over the years. Like, never in a million years I thought that I would have a romance author on the podcast. I've had a few of those on the show, and they've actually shared some great content and has some great insights and just some interesting folks from across the globe, even like fiction writers who've had great stories to share and had a great sense of humor compared to the business and entrepreneurship and leadership authors. Like it's just been one heck of an adventure. So I'd say if you want to stay consistent, basically have a good foundation for success and have a system going to where you can actually have an ecosystem. Like my booking link, like that goes out about a good 110 days in advance. So folks can choose that far out. And when they choose a date, they get 6 reminders. So they get the confirmation email once they pick a date and fill out all the information. A week before, they get a reminder. 32 hours before the interview, they get a reminder. Then an hour before, and then 10 minutes before, and that's just all the emails. They also get about a good 3 text messages in addition to that, so that way they have no excuse to not show up. The only time when that system has failed is when their web browser or their phone automatically filled their contact info with the misspelling of their email address.
Yeah.
And they misspelled it that one time.
Yeah. It has happened like twice. And for me, I'm like, what? Well, how did they manage to like spell it wrong? Like it's their email address and everything, just like it doesn't send a message. It pops up and tells me that this email is not valid, and that way they can't be reminded of the meeting. And I'm like,
yep. Those are the funny ones. It's like, wow, this system's foolproof. It's like, oh, nope. They misspelled it once and the computer remembered it forever.
Yeah. I think probably maybe this software, they should have a feature where they can validate, well, I don't know, but you could probably validate an email, or it would ask you to like confirm the email. That way, if you wrote the wrong one the first time, when you're doing the second time, just like a new password where you ask you to write a new password and then the second password, and each of them have to.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, because that's really stressful. Because now you want to like tell the person to resend and reschedule, but you don't even have their email, especially if they're booking from pod.
Oh yeah, definitely indeed. And it's like, I could guess, but also they might email me and be like, hey, I didn't get the link, and it's like, how the hell you not get the link? And then you read the email and they forgot to confirm. You don't have the confirm feature. It's like, oh, I see. There's an E instead of an I here. All right.
Yeah. Wow. What are some of the plans you have for your podcast? Now that it's going to its 8 years and
yeah, I'm not exactly sure at the moment because my big goal for the show was to interview 1,000 authors across the globe, and I'm basically at that goal. 42 episodes to go for the public to listen and consume. So I'm probably going to keep going, probably for another 1,000. That might be the goal. It might take a sabbatical with it, but also do have some content I got to put out. I'd say I'm 2, maybe 3 books behind. I also got to work on the 10th anniversary edition of my first ever book, Going North, because I published it in 2016 and next year is 2026. So I got to rewrite it and make a second edition, but also it's the 10th anniversary edition. So that's on the horizon. That's probably the biggest goal in front of me right now. The podcast, we shall see. Like I jokingly say, podcasting is one hell of a drug.
Yeah, congratulations on your book anniversary.
Thank you.
Wow. In terms of the list of embarrassing things, is there any a unique podcast story or occurrence that you love to share?
Funny enough, yeah, I will actually, and it probably ties in with what we talked about earlier about email addresses. Funny enough, there was a guest who was supposed to schedule for my show, but he kept for some strange reason, like every time he was trying to type his name in, like Ira Rosen would always show up for some strange reason all the time, like Ira Rosen, his phone number, the email to the PR company that he was representing at the time, like every time. And I was like, who the hell is this guy? And I'm like, wait a second. This is one of the producers for 60 Minutes. Like, that Ira Rosen? Is this really him? Or is this like some other person with the same name? It turns out it was the producer for, like, the former producer for 60 Minutes. The guy worked with Mike Wallace and all these other wonderful folks. And I'm like, dude, this is freaking awesome. And then I even got an email from the company. It was like, what is this? Like, I don't even know you, dude. Like I have a lot of episodes out there, but I'm not like known around the world like that. I'm like not a celebrity or anything. I'm just a random guy from Baltimore who's just trying to make a difference. When I mentioned that the show's a few hundred episodes in, some of the past guests are some illustrious names that he might know of. Like, they just agreed to have Ira guest on the show and talk about his book, Ticking Talk. And that's a fun book I recommend folks to read if they love good storytelling and want to know what it feels like to be a good journalist, especially in the days when it wasn't all about clickbait, like where you basically had to stay in the Midwest and catch random plane flights to find stories as opposed to going on social media. So that was probably one of the fun moments where the computer autofilled the contact information of someone else as opposed to the person that it was intended for, that actually ended up turning into probably one of my most popular episodes ever.
Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah, that's one. Yeah, an estimate in the bag of podcast.
And the other ones, let's see. That was a fun one. Another one would probably be, shoot, I have to say, funny enough, this one comes to my, I forgot the guest name. It was a guest about money too. It was hilarious. Like it even alludes to the fact where Zoom had a bad day and the guest audio was so bad and no one could fix it. Like it was a conversation about money where she was like, hey, so if money was a fictional character for you, who would it be? And at first I said Santa Claus, and she just busted out laughing for like 5 straight minutes because she was like, hey, so you're saying money only comes around once a year? Like, is that what you're trying to say? Yeah. And she was laughing her butt off at things like that. So yeah, that one definitely pops up in my mind. That was one of those episodes I had to re-record, and she made sure I didn't forget the Santa Claus one because I tried to come up with a different character. I forgot who I said or whatever. But she still didn't forget the Santa Claus when they rubbed it in my face on that one. So that one was pretty hilarious.
Yeah. Wow. You mentioned that you switched hope for your podcast.
Yeah, so Monetize, yeah, pretty solid. Like, I've had solid growth with Monetize, funny enough. Like, Libsyn, great software. Like, they're doing a lot of great things to this day. However, the thing is, you only get like a certain amount of memory per month, like, depending on the plan you choose. And you have to pay extra if you go over. Like, with myself, like, especially 3 or so years ago, when I moved to doing 3 episodes a week, like I was paying extra money out of pocket just to have that extra memory, because come down to the final part of the upload and it'd be like, oh, this picture, like 2 megabytes. It's like, nope, you only got 650 megabytes for the month. This puts you 651. You got to pay extra, buddy. And it's like, okay. So I switched over to Monetize for unlimited memory and basically putting out content a lot more and a lot easier too. And funny enough, like got even more notice because the folks who own Monetize, like the Tom and Tracy has, are like, I'm not getting paid for mentioning them at all, but just that they're actually podcast hosts themselves. They geek about podcasting. They know about the equipment and things like that. And they're like in the trenches doing the work themselves. So they're always about growth themselves. So I just love what they're doing and what they're about. So yeah, it was a bit of a rough transfer. Like I'm just glad that they handled it for me when I agreed to do the switch because I had probably a good 400 episodes of data to transfer over to Monetize, and that was rough. And the thing was, when it switched over, it basically reposted every single episode. And the thing is, with my episode titles, the Twitter handle for each guest, if they have a Twitter handle that's active, like it's going to be in the title. So all these folks are getting all these retweets out of nowhere, like, hey, my name's popping up, but on my end, it's like I just see like episode 202, 257. It's like, why the hell is this thing showing these tweets from years ago? Like, why is it reposting it? And it's like, yeah, but after that, it's been pretty much smooth sailing afterwards.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. I feel like if you intend to publish and be really using all these platforms that ask you to pay per hour or pay per storage space is just going to you. It's not made for you. That those platforms are not made for you. They're meant for people who want to publish like once every 2 weeks, once every week, and just do it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the growth was happening. It's like, hey, like this thing ain't fully paying for itself yet. Like, I gotta switch over here.
Yeah, just
It's
out of curiosity, currently, the podcast right now, what would you say is like the expense it takes for it to produce the podcast?
Let's see. I'm not even really sure the exact number off the top of my head because the equipment's paid for, but like monthly expenses, like the podcast is paying mostly for itself. Like the AI stuff, like the site itself, like it probably costs probably like $200 a month because I do my own editing with the audio and I got Canva and that's an annual thing I'm a part of. So it's like maybe 200 a month,
Wow,
like give or take. And
wow,
that's
that's a
with
lot.
the amount of content yeah. So I'm like, hey, it's working out though.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, thank you so much, Dom. Yeah, it's really nice chatting with you.
my pleasure, Wisdom, man. Appreciate you for having me on, man.
Yeah, yeah. What actually shifted your podcast from something you were just doing consistently to kind of like put you on the map?
So what shifted it for me just putting out content to actually put me on the map is
Yeah,
basically that what you're asking?
yeah. If possibly, you can.
I mean, the consistency is actually what put me on the map, though. That's the thing, because a lot of people pod fade. It's like I've guessed it probably on 200 podcasts in since starting a podcast myself and writing the book, and maybe 50 of them are still active. Like some of them like fell off the face of the earth, like the face of iTunes, and didn't even make it to Spotify at all. So like if you're in the game for the long haul and you choose to stay, like you're in a good spot. Like a lot of folks are like, oh man, podcasts are so saturated nowadays. It's like, well, not really, because there's probably close to maybe 800,000 active podcasts,
Yeah,
and listen notes only, they probably have like 3.3 million podcasts out there, but only 800,000 are actually active. It's like you still have a chance to really make a dent in the universe. Like YouTube is just now turned 20 years old and there's only what, what, 20 million YouTube accounts, but only so many are actually streaming and making some kind of money off of it. So like, hey, like if you want to get into podcasting and you got a business to promote, definitely do it. Especially if you got a team around you to help you out, like definitely, I wouldn't stop anyone from podcasting. Like, hey, jump in it. Like, hey, you're jumping in it now yourself, man. Like, you never know where you end up in a couple of years if you decide to keep it up and you stay consistent.
yeah, yeah. That's true. wow, consistency kind of like, launched you into the sphere. So far, that's what you're doing, and that's what has been keeping the podcast going, word of mouth, and people.
Yeah, man. And not just consistency with uploading episodes, like always resharing content too. Because there's like, especially with social media, it's like they change the algorithm so darn much. Like you don't see anything. Let's say you post something today, someone might not see it till like next Wednesday or like 14 days from today. And they're like, man, when the heck was this? It was like, oh yeah, just 2 weeks ago. The timeline's messing with you. And it's like always good to share new content. Like I gave a talk back in 2018 and re-uploaded the video 2 years later, and someone in the comments is like, dude, where was this? I'm like, oh yeah, it was just a men's leadership conference from 2 years ago. And it's like you never know who's actually gonna catch your content at the right times. Consistency is not just uploading it, but always sharing it in multiple forms and always resharing it because you never know.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm excited when I saw the podcast going out. At first, I thought it was about.
Well, that is what I say in the intro of the book. It's like, hey, when you think of going north, you look at a map, you're thinking about going up.
Yeah, I like the idea for the fourth, even though it was out of the what the well, it's doing pretty well now, and it's crushing.
Hey, thanks, man. It's right indeed. It's the name of the game when you're driven. Things could
Yeah,
happen.
yeah. Um, just before we go, any advice you love to like share with people who are just starting their podcast or are grinding and yeah, what do you have?
Don't sleep on Twitter. Like on paper, the engagement may be a little bit down because of Elon Musk buying it and him aligning himself with certain political leaders in the US of A. But like don't sleep on Twitter. Like that's been probably one of my best like marketing platforms ever. Like it's like, yeah, there's a dumpster fire there, but like, hey, there's actually some treasure there too. Like my stuff gets posted to Twitter automatically, and they may not always like or repost it, but they click on it. So you never know. Like there's some folks out there who may never openly like or share your content because they're scared the algorithm's going to keep showing them that particular thing. But like, don't 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 sleep on it, man. You might be surprised. Jump on Twitter.
Yeah, thank you so much, Adam, for coming on the podcast and for sharing your podcast story with us. Before we go, and before I ask you the closing question, usually I ask my guests if they are comfortable with it. Of course, if you're not, you can skip the. What's the download numbers like?
Currently we are at 450,000 downloads cumulatively all across the episodes. So I'm assuming 50,000 more are coming before September or by September.
Yeah, that would be nice. Just be at the 500,000. That would be great.
Oh yeah.
Like I mean, it sounds better when you say.
Oh yeah, definitely indeed, definitely indeed. Like growth is happiness. Like the thing is, downloads weren't even a metric I was really paying attention to until like late 2018, early 2019, like almost 2 years after the show launched, because I was just focusing on staying to my schedule of every Thursday, not knowing that I had to add an extra day every Monday and Saturday after that. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much once again for sharing your story with us on the podcast, and I love your energy. It's highly contagious. Honestly, yeah, yeah,
Hey, appreciate it. It sounds like we
yeah.
both needed when we're recording.
Yeah. Before I forget, where can listeners learn more about you? Check out your podcast and what?
Thanks a bunch. You can check me out on goingnorthpodcast.com. Just head over to that website, check out all the goodness there, and you can Google Going North Podcast. It's on your favorite listening platform, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, whatever you like, it's going to be there. Going North Podcast.
Yeah, thank you so. That's it for today's episode of my podcast story. I am Wisdom Okonkwo, and I hope this conversation sparked new ideas and gave you a deeper look into the heart of podcasting. If you've loved this episode, consider supporting the show by buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/wisdomhq. Every bit helps keep the stories going. And hey, don't forget to follow, rate, and share this podcast with another podcaster or creator who would find it helpful. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you in the next episode.